What's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again to the channel. Before we get into today's video, make sure to subscribe and sack that like button. In this video, I'm going to be doing my post-week 13 NFL power ranking. So without further ado, let's begin. Coming in at number 32, I got the Texans still having a pretty, demoralizing loss to the Browns, where their defense allowed no touchdowns, yet 3 touchdowns were scored by the Browns. Clearly the worst team in the NFL right now. Coming in at number 31, I got the Bears, who, had another lead and things were going well and lost. Justin Fields made a pretty awesome run in this game. He's a highlight reel right now, but things are just not resulting in wins for this team. Coming in at number 30, I have the Broncos. I don't even know where to begin with this team of how they move forward. They traded so many assets away. They traded players away. They traded draft picks away. Then they extended Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson now is taking up so much of their cap. I don't see where this team moves forward from here. Coming in at number 29, I have the Rams, who gave it all they got against their division rival, the Seahawks. Tough scene for Bobby Wagner losing to his former team. And it's funny, he left the Seahawks in pursuit of chasing a Super Bowl, and now he's on a team that's done, and his Seahawks just beat him, and they're a team that at least could make the playoffs. Coming in at number 28, I have the Jaguars, who got blown out by the Lions. Coming in at number 27, I have the Saints, who, I'll get more into it later when we get to the Bucks, but the Saints really blew that game. It had to have been a 99.95% of a chance that the Saints would win that game once they were up 16-3 with possession of the ball with 6 minutes left. How do you lose that game? That was bizarre, and I think that might be the backbreaker for the Saints in terms of this season. Coming in at number 26, I have the Panthers, who released Baker Mayfield. It will be interesting to see where he lands, but that means they're probably moving forward with Sam Darnold as the starter from here on out, and we'll see how that goes. They're only 2 games back from the Bucks in the division, but they already beat the Bucks and play them again. Coming in at number 25, I have the Cardinals, who had a bye week this week. Coming in at number 24, I have the Colts, who, got blown out by the Cowboys. It was a close game for a while, but ultimately Matt Ryan and the offense just kept churning the ball over. I think if Jeff Saturday wants to have any chance of being able to get rehired next year, he's going to have to bench Matt Ryan and put in Nick Foles, and hope Nick Foles can give the team some sort of a spark, because Matt Ryan is done. Coming in at number 23, I have the Falcons, Matt Ryan's former team, who lost in a defensive battle against the Steelers. Coming in at number 22, I had the Packers, who were able to get a good morality win against the Bears, but their season is still pretty much over. Coming in at number 21, I have the Raiders, who got a nice moral win against the Chargers. They're still, pretty much done in terms of this season. Coming in at number 20, I have the Lions, who, as I mentioned earlier, got that blowout win over the Jaguars. If this team would have beaten the Bills on Thanksgiving, right now they could be looking at a 6-6 record, and I think things would be a lot different. I think if this team would not have lost to the Bills on Thanksgiving, this team could be considered a legitimate playoff contender to get in. But now, they're 5-7. They're still 2 games back. I think realistically, they're going to have to win out to have a real shot at getting in. Coming in at number 19, I have the Steelers, another team here that's kind of hanging around, but they're going to need to pretty much win out if they want to be able to make it to the playoffs, which is unlikely at this point. But they're getting solid wins here with Kenny Pickett, and this is good for them in the long run, developing the confidence in the game of rookie quarterback Kenny Pickett. Coming in at number 18, I have the Browns, who got the win over the Texans. But what is pretty concerning for the Browns is Deshaun Watson struggling in that game offensively. Like I said, they did not score a single offensive touchdown in that game. But, to be fair, it was his first game back. He hasn't played in basically 2 full years almost. And this was his first game back. I think as the next few weeks go on, I think things will clean up. This team, sure, they do still have a chance to make the playoffs, but like the Steelers and the Lions, they're going to have to win out. And I don't think that is very likely. They got some big games ahead against the Bengals, the Ravens, and their division rival, the Steelers. So, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but obviously not a great first game for Deshaun Watson, but we'll see where it goes from here. Coming in at number 17, I have the Patriots. It feels like Mac Jones has kind of lost the locker room of this Patriots team. It doesn't feel like he's their leader anymore, and that's not good, especially for a young quarterback. I just think that, it's not a good situation. The play calling, everything. There's a lack of weapons to get the ball to. I know he has Hunter Henry and Nelson Aguilar, but those guys are not, top tier guys. And for a young quarterback facing tough teams like the Bills, the Dolphins, week in and week out, he needs that kind of support, and I don't think he's getting it. And the fans at Gillette are definitely very impatient with him, and I think that's kind of what led to the blow up Mac Jones had on the sideline. Coming in at number 16, I have the Chargers, who they just can't seem to get their head. Every time they get to sea level, get their head above water, they, drop back down. I mean, I don't know what the exact issue is with this team, but, in this game in particular against the Raiders, Justin Herbert just really did not have time to throw. There's a lot of injuries on that O-line. Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, the rookie, is not playing, the way they probably would have wished he could have. I believe Corey Linsley's hurt, so there's injuries, but it seems like with them there's something different every week. One week it's the defense, one week the receivers are hurt, one week the O-line is just not playing good. And it's just, they can't seem to bring it together. They're still very much in the playoff push. They're one game back from the Jets, but a huge setback loss right there. And then coming in at number 15, I have the Commanders, who had that tie with the Giants. They now go into their bye week and then will face the Giants again. Coming in at number 14, I have the Titans, who got blown out by the Eagles. I think, what I said in my preview video for this game would definitely come down to, can Derrick Henry get the normal penetration he does against this Eagles front? He could not. It led to the Eagles being down early, chasing from behind with Tannehill, and obviously you can only imagine how that went. They got beat 35-10. I think if the Titans really want to become a legitimate team and compete with the top teams, they need to make a change at quarterback this offseason. Ryan Tannehill is not going to get it done for them. Coming in at number 13, I have the Giants, who, as I mentioned, had the tie there, missed a late field goal there in overtime. It wasn't the worst game to tie. They got off to a slow start in that game, but then they had it throughout most of the game. They led throughout most of the second half and controlled most of the second half, but just couldn't close the game out when they had the ball up 20-13 with a few minutes left. Coming in at number 12, I have the Seahawks, who got the win over the division rival, the Rams, coming off their bye week. They're only one game back from the 49ers. And, with the injury to Jimmy Garoppolo, which we'll get more on later, they're very much in that race for the NFC West title. Coming in at number 11, I have the Buccaneers, who, as I mentioned earlier, had that massive come-from-behind victory. I don't get it. I don't get why people are counting this team out. This team can beat the top teams if they're on their game. If Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Brady are all on the same page, and that defense is playing like how they were playing last night, this team can beat almost anybody, anywhere. I think it's silly to continue to count Tom Brady out 23 years into his career, and we saw why last night. This team is most likely going to get into the playoffs, and once they do, they're going to have a home playoff game, and I think that's regardless of who it's against, they can very much win that game, so this team will definitely be in the mix in January, no doubt about it. Coming in at number 10, I have the Jets, who settled for a lot of field goals in that game against the Vikings, 5 field goals, but I don't think that's necessarily the problem. When you're playing a tough team, you're going to have a tough time sometimes in the red zone, and the Vikings are notorious this season for a lot of yards on defense, but getting the stops in the red zone. And, the Jets just kept chipping away at that lead that the Vikings had, but it basically came down to that Braxton Berrios dropped touchdown with a couple minutes left in the game, and then they got the ball back anyway. But it was a tougher task. But they did have another opportunity. But I don't blame Mike White for this loss. I think Mike White did what he could. I don't think Mike White. People should be expecting Mike White to put this team on his back. He doesn't need to. He just can't lose the game, and he didn't lose the game, and they lost. But they were playing the Vikings, but they're still in the playoff picture as of right now. Jets control their destiny, and they got a big matchup against the Buffalo Bills. And if they were to beat the Bills this upcoming week, they would only be one game back from the Bills in the division, and they will have already beaten them twice. So if they want to have any shot at winning the division, they need to win this game coming up. Coming in at number 9, I have the Ravens. Lamar Jackson tweaked his knee in this game. Tyler Huntley came in and filled in well like he did last year when Lamar got hurt for the most part. But I mean, with Lamar and without Lamar, this offense definitely struggled against the Broncos. Now, the Broncos do have a good defense, and I think that's kind of forgotten at times. But regardless, it was an ugly win for the Ravens, but their defense did what they needed to do. Ugly offensively, pretty defensively. They played a great defensive game. So did the Broncos defense, obviously, but obviously the Ravens were able to get enough for the win, got that late touchdown that put them up ahead a point, and then Brandon McManus couldn't hit that game-winning field goal there at the end. That was very long. Coming in at number 8, I have the Dolphins, who lost to the 49ers. This was the first legitimate loss for Tua Tagovailoa in this season, and it was definitely a tough one for them because you could tell they really wanted to win this game. For Mike McDaniel, Raheem Mostert, Trent Sherfield, Jeff Wilson Jr., they all wanted this game, all these former 49er guys, but they just cannot. They could not move the ball like they do usually, and the key for them in this game was to get the ball downfield quick. And Tua was just not able to. Tua got hurt, but he should be fine and ready to go for the coming weeks. Coming in at number 7, I have the 49ers. The dominating thing in this game, more so than the actual win, was Jimmy Garoppolo broke his foot, out for the year, and it is now mystery relevant Brock Purdy making the start. Now, Baker Mayfield is obviously out there for the taking if the Niners want him. But, it sounds to me like they're going to stay with Purdy for the good or the worst. And I think Purdy, at least unlike Mayfield or another guy who would come from the outside, Purdy is already familiar with this team. I think the team would rally around him more as a leader because he's younger and he's from here. He's from the Niners. So, but can this team make a run into the postseason with Brock Purdy? I mean, I'm not saying no. Crazier things have happened. I mean, they can. They have the weapons on all over the offensive side of the ball. They have the defense. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, I'm not saying that Jimmy Garoppolo would have, threw 3 touchdowns for over 300 yards every game he played in. But what he would have done was at least made 3 or 4 big throws on 3rd down or 4th down, which I don't know if Brock Purdy will be able to do. In the game, if you look at the film, Brock Purdy hesitated a lot throughout this game, but was still, even when he hesitated, able to make up for it by making the throw. But he made things tougher on him at times. But overall, Purdy did have a good opening game. Coming in at number 6, I have the Bengals, who were able to beat my Kansas City Chiefs for a 3rd time in the year of 2022. It was a tough loss for the Chiefs, but if you look at it in terms of the Bengals to win this game without Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine has cemented himself as a star player, the backup running back. And yeah, the Bengals just, they caused that turnover there at the end that really made the difference. Coming in at number 5, I have the Bills, who got the win over the Patriots. They just, out-talented them. They just proved they had the better roster there. Coming in at number 4, I have the Chiefs, who, as I mentioned, lost to the Bengals. It was a very tough loss for them to lose to these guys for a 3rd time in a row, and it's no fluke at this point to lose to these guys 3 times in a row in this span of time. This team is clearly a weakness for the Chiefs. There's no avoiding it. The bottom line is if Kelsey doesn't fumble that ball Chiefs would have probably won that game. It changed the whole trajectory of how that game was going. It's a very, very tough loss for the Chiefs, but I don't think it's a panic button loss, but it's something that they definitely need to consider heading into the playoffs, that they need to be more careful in these situations of keeping the ball, because you look at it, their loss to the Colts back in week 3, it was because of that turnovers and drop passes. Their loss against the Bills, similar missed opportunities, a couple of drops in that game. They just really need to clean these things up. Coming in at number 3, I have the Vikings, who got the win over the Jets, as I mentioned. Their defense came through there in the end, holding in the red zone and then holding in those 2 other red zone situations to no points when the Jets were trying to win the game. Vikings are winning games in different ways this year. Coming in at number 2, I have the Cowboys, who just exploded on the Colts. We're struggling there for a while. It was a 2-point game late in the third quarter, and then all of a sudden, it just turned into a massacre. And I think that has more to do with the Colts than it does with the Cowboys. But no doubt about it, the Cowboys are very, very loaded on offense right now with CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, Cavante Turpin, and their defense is just causing turnovers and just getting stops. It's a very, very tough team, but it's a lot of this. This can translate into the playoffs. Is going to depend a lot on Dak Prescott and the play calling and management of Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy does not call the plays, but decision making. And then coming in at number 1, no different from Pat. They've been number 1, but they weren't last week in my rankings, but they've been number 1, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles, who are sitting at 11-1 and just got a big blowout win over the Tennessee Titans. Offense looks great. Jalen Hurts had a heck of a game, 3 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, a heck of a wide receiver duo. And their defense just completely shut down the Titans. This team is going to be very hard to beat in January. Comment down below what you guys think about all this, and other than that, I'll see you guys next time.